Check, check. I'm not sure. Did they turn off the mixer?
It should be up and it's just down.
There's no switches here.
It's on.
Check, check. All right, I fixed it.
That's because you were speaking into that. Kind of check.
No, this one works too.
Testing, testing.
Yeah. Check 1, 2.
Say it again.
Testing, testing, testing.
We can just move the mic in between us.
Sure.
That kind of works.
Well, do we need both? Is it going to be?
No. Mine works.
I think this one was working as well, right?
So send your tweet.
Okay, I have to go back there. I don't see a create new source, no.
Checking for source. Go back. Go to scope producer. You're on, right?
Yeah.
So you're on YouTube.
So stop.
Stop YouTube. Stop. Now click here.
Is it still going? I don't remember how to stop it.
Which one is Periscope? This one?
Yeah.
Start Periscope. Okay. Then it should recognize that.
Do I have to press the red one?
No, red is stopping.
Okay. Okay, so preview broadcast.
Yep, preview broadcast. And that's where you put your text in.
Phones off.
Will it paste? Okay. Tweet it?
Got that?
Do I send it?
Yep. Now go back into here. YouTube.
Right, the left.
Okay. Now go back here.
So it's streaming right now?
Stream, but did you press record?
I'm not sure. I mean, they're both blinking.
Yeah, that's the recording.
We should have had the hand puppet come up and.
Hi,
sock
I'm
puppet.
Melissa Thorne with the Oracle developer community here at Oracle Open World 2017, and I'm sitting with Christopher Jones. Can you?
And talk and get up
Very
early
modest.
and things like that. So.
And you're giving a few talks today.
We
Or this
have
week?
a bunch of talks in my area. So I'm technically the product manager for data access, one of the data access groups.
Okay.
So we have talks on really interesting things such as and this is really interesting actually, it's the Oracle net layer of connectivity between anything such as an application in Python or your financial application and the database.
Okay.
So anybody who's interested in optimizing that tech stack should come along to a session later this afternoon. I've got some links later in the slides which will let people find exactly what I'm talking about. And of course, we've got some cloud stuff going on as well. You know, there's a lot of interest in cloud, obviously from users and from us, push and pull. And we've got some talks there on connecting to the cloud today. We've got a lot of interest in Python. We've got some Python sessions coming up during the week. A lot of Node Oracle sessions coming up. And today I'm going to speak a little bit about, surprise, surprise, as you can see on the slides, node-oracledb.
That sounds awesome.
And some general optimization tuning sessions, which are pretty much apply to a lot of these languages because they're all very similar in letting you access Oracle database from a programming language. They have very similar functionality, capabilities, accessing PL SQL, accessing SQL. A lot of them have optimizations for caching results, so you don't have to do too much network traffic backwards and forwards.
And anyone who's interested to look up all of your sessions and the summaries can do so on the Open World website where we have the session catalog. So there's still plenty of time to register and get in to check them out.
Sure.
And,
Sounds great.
And you're ready to share some slides?
Yeah, I admit, a little bit slide-based today, so I just thought I'd run through a couple of things. So this is a kind of cut-down munge of a couple of the sessions which we've got going on. but I wanted to give a little bit of an overview. So node-oracledb is a add-on for Node Oracle database. Sorry, I'm now confusing myself with people around me. Node-oracledb is the add-on for the node.js ecosystem. Let me start with a safe harbor statement. People at the Oracle conference probably know this well. I'm going to be speaking about some open source things. Dates are a little bit unpredictable, so don't go and make purchasing decisions based on anything I say.
There's your bio.
Bio's up there. You can pretty much find me if you start looking for that GHRD, which is my Twitter handle. But in the old days when Twitter was young and my friends were all getting single-letter Twitter handles, I thought nobody was using this thing, so I just chose some random string out there, which was GHRD. Now it probably means something else, but anyway, that's the handle that I tweet on. So the group that I look after looks after these APIs, and some of them are proprietary APIs into the database, and you'll kind of recognize the Java JDBCs. These are things which you make available. They're all sort of standard and free and out there. C APIs, the Oracle Call Interface OCI, is that I like an Australian A or an I? I don't know with my Australian accent where that comes across, I. Then we've got some open source drivers out there. Some of these are in the open source spaces such as GitHub, PHP's on the php.net websites. And there are some which we kind of contribute to in a sort of question answer way, the Perl, Ruby, Rust and Go. They're all drivers out there that people using those languages can access Oracle database. The word driver is kind of a word we use here in Oracle. People also know it as APIs or interfaces, things like that. Hey Melissa, can I do a quick shout out on the Ruby people?
Yes,
I mean, you're from OTN. OTN's been really good for developers.
Go for it.
So Ruby community has two really key people out there who have become Oracle aces this year very recently.
Okay.
So Takahiro Kubo looks after the Ruby OCI 8 extension, which is a core layer for the Ruby language to access Oracle database. And Yasuo Honda looks after the Ruby on Rails adapter on top of that. So a lot of people use Ruby via Ruby on Rails.
Awesome.
Those two key people have been really key, totally out there, techie people out on GitHub, answering questions, creating content, long-time maintainers of these things. It's just, I go home, I kind of get paid for some of this. Those people are doing it in their spare time for a long time. I just really, really
Are they aces or Java champions?
They're Oracle aces.
Cool, well, I'm glad.
So they're on the Oracle website. My computer's not on the net, I haven't got it up there, but on the Oracle Ace site you can find them.
Nice.
So Takahiro Kubo and Yasuo Honda, we really do from Oracle appreciate your efforts for the Ruby community. But anyway, add aside. So Node.js, people still coming up to our booth. We've got a demo both here at Open World. You can hear the hum in the background, everybody's around. It is an environment which pretty much has its own network file system interface, so you don't need like a web server to run it. You write a program in Node, which is a JavaScript engine, so you're writing in JavaScript language. You can listen for requests from the web, from sockets, FTP, and send responses back, so its own little generator there. Used by a lot of places, has become very popular in the last couple of years. How this fits with the Oracle stack, for people who don't understand this, we still sort of think of it as a sort of three-tier stack. So there's obviously our users sitting out there. There's this mid-tier, which is where all of the node and the love and the magic happens. And then there's the database tier, so sort of three-tier stack. And in that mid-tier, you've got the Node programming environment. You've got our little Node OracleDB adapter, which is out there free on GitHub. And we have the Oracle client libraries.
Okay.
So those Oracle client libraries are available as zips and RPMs for our Oracle Linux users and other Linux users. They provide a lot of the real magic. They're used by pretty much everything which accesses the Oracle database. So they're widely tested, they're stable, they're core, free to download from OTN, surprise, surprise. So OTN is hosting that for all of the platforms that we support.
Now it's Oracle Developer
Oracle
Community.
Developer Community. So conference has just started for me. And the rebranding is happening. But anyway, this is excellent news to hear that we're getting a bit of life this year coming in and some changes, as obviously developers I think are a big key focus for everybody. So node-oracledb is just out there on GitHub. It's, again, something which users can contribute to. Although we have lead maintainers on it, users can make contributions and users have made contributions, and we appreciate those people who've taken time to make some code changes, some doc changes, suggestions and things like that to build up this kind of community and ecosystem. Okay, so I'm not going to really cover my whole talk, which I'm going to go through tomorrow. I've got a little bit, I'm going to go like into just a little bit of installation, really just so that I can show you some future stuff. And I've just got one tip. I just pulled one tip out of the slide, which we'll cover. But this is the kind of overview of the API. You can see it's very low weight in terms of classes there, just a few key classes. You don't even need the lob class in the current releases because we've made lobs a lot easier to work with in the last year or so. We're trying to do a lot of the magic for you so that the Node developer doesn't have to write a lot of code. It just sort of says, it just works, it just does things when they need it. So for people, again, who haven't seen Node, just an introduction, kind of callback how those blank lines, I'll get to in a minute, but you can see it's sort of line 1 there, it says, hey, I need to get my API that I want to use, OracleDB. I get a connection, I do an execute. Bind variables, a bind variable is always very important in all of these languages in terms of scalability, so the statements don't have to be reparsed because the text of the statement between the quotes there is constant every time something re-executes that. And for security, so there's no SQL concatenation security issues there. So binding, and then in the node sense, you get a result back and you can print out rows here. That's pretty simple. And just to flesh it out, you get obviously connection strings there and a lot of error handling and things like that. But it's basically, as you can see in red, standard as you get with JDBC, with OCI, with PHP, connect, execute, get data, done.
Right.
And of course, get data, of course, you actually get some data back. I've got another couple of quick slides which actually show the same thing. So promises are a big thing here in Node. They're just coming online. Makes it a little easier than that kind of callback methods we showed on the previous slides. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that. And then recently in Node 7.6, and more popular in the next long-term support, release 8, you can use this new async await, which makes things a lot more familiar to people who don't like this kind of callback, what's happening when kind of structure. You can see there on lines 5 and 6 in red, you're pretty much saying, await this action, wait for my connection to succeed. When that's done, then I can go on and I can do my execute. You don't have a kind of nested, get connection, okay, when that's finished, I go and do my execute. Okay, now I can go and release the cursor. We get a more linear look to the code, which is kind of layman's term of saying it's easier to work with, easier to debug. So I'm not going to go into any of these features. Anybody who's here at the conference can come and see my talk tomorrow. I'll talk a lot about these things. And you can see there's a URL on the screen. My session is 6712, and that tiny URL, appdev.oow, that's Oracle Open World W17, will take you to the list of really cool sessions in the application developer space.
What time is it at tomorrow?
That is in the afternoon. That's a good question. I will work that out and get back to you.
Everybody should look it up.
Yeah, I have a lot of sessions, and I think that's one of the later ones in the early evening. As most of the developer things seem to be in the early evening. They don't like developers getting up early in this space.
It works for me.
So people coming along to the session will hear a lot about some of these things on the slides. If I can pick out something which I'm not going to talk about either there or today in slides, is the high availability features. So those are things which come free with that key Oracle client library stack which I talked about. Things like fast application notification, transparent application failover, things which can really add reliability into a stack for an application. And coming downstream, things like application continuity, more buzzwords. Your application continuity is a way for the application to actually remember what is being sent to the database. And if that database node disappears, it can replay that information to somewhere else when you can reconnect to a database. So you don't actually lose any information. Any of the transaction, any inserts, anything that you've done. If it's not been committed yet to a database where the database disappears, the client has remembered what you've tried to submit, and it can resubmit it back and store things out. So I'm going to take a little bit of a sidebar actually. So this is something I'm not actually talking about in my talk. This is programming API, new API. So this is actually a C interface, and something we've been working hard on. One of the key developers is here at the conference. And it's now being used, if you look right there in the middle in bold, it's being used by the node-oracledb version 2 API and by CX Oracle, which is the Python API version 6, using this. And our third-party maintainers out there, Kubo, for example, started a Rust driver. Another one's come along, the Go driver's come along, using this C API to write interfaces that you can use in any of these languages. So it's a kind of efficient way to get drivers out there. And you don't actually have to use it for drivers. It's a little bit targeted at drivers, but you can use it for any application you like. If you want a really high performance C API application out there, but you don't like our Oracle Call Interface API for whatever reasons, we kind of abstract it a little bit, smooth out some of the rough edges, make it a little easier to work with. And we've had some really good feedback, particularly from these driver maintainers about it. So that's a little bit of a sidebar, really, because it's trying to tell you where things are going with this V2, which is out there in a developer preview at the moment. API is going to be unchanged. The stack is very similar to what I showed before. We just stick this ODPI-C layer in there. Users don't need to know anything about it. Totally hidden under the scenes, but I just wanted to throw it out there for people who do kind of like to know how it's all built and where things are heading. Got this new reliable API underneath. So the key thing we're going to have is pretty much you need to install this client stack. So Oracle Developer Community now has the instant client, as we just discussed. You can download that, or even use libraries which are part of the Oracle database. It's the same set of libraries. Need to tell applications where to find those libraries, so you set LD library path, or on Windows you set path, and run an install command. So in preview mode at the moment, it's not out there on the NPM registry, so we just got it installing from GitHub with this extra GitHub syntax, so you can go and play with that. You won't see a lot of difference because the ODPI is really the same as exposing the same functionality as before. But as we stabilize this, release it, then we can start adding a lot more great functionality on top. So I'll come back to some of those things a little bit later. So I want to just go into one tip. As I said, I pulled out one tip. So we have connection pooling. We recommend people use connection pooling. Right. Connection pooling is good. Pooling is good. Shared resources. Connections can take a little bit of resources to start up and stop, and you don't want to waste that effort that you've taken to create that connection. So we suggest creating a pool. This is how you do it in Node. So this is a Node-specific tip, is that by default you have 4 worker threads there. And so each of those worker threads may be connecting to the database and trying to do some work. They're doing a SQL statement, doing a select, doing an insert. And those worker threads could be fully utilized. So what happens if something else comes in, the user puts another request, wants to make another connection? There's no worker thread to actually handle that work. And now, in this particular scenario, we've now got 5 threads. That extra workload comes in and can go through to the database. So it's just a little trick. It seems to catch a few people unawares because we see a lot of people who are new to Node not really understand how this kind of all works and plays together. They kind of think connections are asynchronous, but actually those connections to the database there on those right-hand red arrows, black and red arrows, they're kind of waiting for the work to be complete on the database before they get freed, and those worker processes are reusable. And one final tip is that Node itself limits the number of threads you can have, so that kind of means keep the maximum size of that pool under this. That was a little bit of a tip, just a side tip, and so I just wanted to throw it out there. What are we kind of working on in future?
Okay.
Just whet the appetite for those Node people. Spoke a little bit about version 2 of node-oracledb based on this database programming interface API. We're really hopeful that we've sorted out some of the legal technical issues and getting pre-built binaries out there for this, so that installation will be really smooth. You won't need C compilers or anything like that at the moment, which is annoying for people on Windows. And if this conference finished, we can actually get down and do some work and get those out there. Seen a little bit of demand for a simple execute, connect, disconnect call. People seem to like doing single shot things to a database, not having to worry about error handling and things like that. So maybe we can wrap up that, somehow bundle it, make it usable for you. Python drivers already got things like the Python object to SQL object binding. That's available in that ODPI layer. So once we pick that up, then we should be able to pick up some Node object to SQL object binding, which would be really neat. SODA. So SODA is the simple Oracle document access model, which is available in Java at the moment.
Okay.
Now in 18C of the database, and as you all know, right, we're going from 12 to 18. That should become available in 18C in the OCI layer. We can then put that into ODPI and then into Node. And so you get a document style access instead of this old SQL access into the database. That's really cool. NAPI is something else I wanted to point out about. So the Node community is aware that there are a lot of Node versions coming out. There's Node 4, Node 6, Node 8 are kind of the current versions.
Right.
9 is going to come out later this month. So they're introducing a new API for add-ons like node-oracledb, binary add-ons, written in C, C++, and so they're going to bring that out, and at some stage we'll have to cut over to that. That's a kind of future thing. Disclaimer, of course, standard Oracle disclaimer, just in that little fine print at the bottom. Don't. These things may never happen. It's open source. If you contribute, they'll happen faster and things like that. So we've got a couple of other sessions coming up here at the conference. My session tomorrow. There we go, 5:45. I knew it was a late one. I knew we'd get to that. My colleague Dan McGann, who's actually a real JavaScript expert, he contributes to the team. We're getting some help from him with these node binary packaging and things like that. So he's got a couple of sessions on. He's got more than I've listed here. I think he's got a talk in one of the theaters as well. 1:30 tomorrow, I think. So there's a lot of node activity at the conference. And that last session that's mentioned there on the Wednesday 5:30, that's the one which is more general. So that one's really applicable to all of the drivers out there, the C, Python, Node drivers. But that's actually a good one because it really delves down into what actually happens and caching and things like that. And going to introduce something we call Oracle Database Cloud Traffic Manager, which is a kind of new architecture there in connection land, which I don't have time to discuss today. Anybody at the conference can come along to our booth, left-hand side of Moscone West. We're here in sunny San Francisco. It's a great sunny day in San Francisco, isn't it? It's actually one of the rare warm days out there. It's really beautiful to see everybody out enjoying themselves. And that's my final slide. That's my contact information. You can find me on Twitter and social media and things like that. Part of the sort of Oracle developer community, formerly known as Oracle Technology Network. So. Thank you.
Will you be uploading your slides to your blog?
I will be uploading my full slides from tomorrow's talk onto the standard conference website. A lot of this stuff will filter through into the blog as well.
I'm sure people will be really interested.
Yeah. Well, key people will be really interested. I don't want to be too American about this. I've got to be Australian and just sort of play it low key, right? A few people, yeah. More than a few people, Thousands of people going by our downloads. We get tens of thousands of downloads a month of this, so there is definitely some interest out there. So.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to share with us, and good luck at all your sessions. It looks like you'll be very busy.
I am actually very busy. Analyst meetings, team dinners, the important things, OTN commitments, concerts, and commuting and things like that. So.
Great.
But it's a great conference. Open source is great. Conferences are great. Two go very well together because you can talk and can communicate, learn from everybody. So.
And if anyone's actually at the conference, we're filming this live in the Developer Lounge in Moscone West.
On the right-hand side.
So come on by.
Over and out.
Thank you.